think we are officially live at this point. I'm really bad at this intro thing. I got to come up with something better.
Oh yeah, we got 3 watching.
Um, Welcome everybody to, we'll call it a special edition live stream. So as a general rule, for those of you who are not familiar with this live stream, we're going to be going live on Wednesday nights as a general rule. I know it's Monday. The reason why we're going live on a Monday is because we have, as you can see, a cool new view, a cool new set of software that we're going to be using to do lives. The other thing about this that's really cool is that we're going to be able to bring on other guests. And if you have a channel, we're actually going to be able to share that content with your viewers as well, just like we're doing, sharing it on both of our channels. Now, I do want to give a special thank you to the man in the chat right here, the American Angler Outdoors. He is part of the reason why we are able to do this cool new view. We'll call him a sponsor of our live streams for now. I'm working with the American Angler Outdoors to grow their network, and I do have some information on that I'm going to be doing on a later live stream. But I do want to give a special thank you to the American Angler, because without him, we'd be still using our weird setup. And trust me, if you saw that setup, you'd understand. What we're doing today is we're doing questions and answers. So anyone that has a fishing related question, they want to know about bear fishing, they want to know what it's like to live in Canada, doesn't really matter, kind of an open book topics right now, and just go ahead and ask the questions. If not, then we're just going to ramble about fishing on here. So it's your opportunity to ask some questions, guys.
Yep, I guess I can fill the gap just by saying thank you from me as well because I haven't had a chance to really speak to him before. So thank you, American Angling Outdoors. Hopefully, I get to speak with you sometime soon. I'd enjoy that. Yeah, like a live stream with the 3 of us together. That'd be cool.
We should definitely set that up, actually.
Yeah,
We can do
yeah,
that on one of
for
the Tuesday lives.
yeah, yeah. I'm down. I mean, this software looks crazy.
Yeah,
So
this is
compared to what
fun.
we had, really cool.
I think we have
Eden
one
Valley.
person.
So So he's actually from upstate New York, and he's an
Okay.
angler who loves kayak fishing. I actually asked him some questions about the Old Town kayak as well that I just purchased.
Gotcha.
He does kayak bass fishing. He catches like bowfin, big northerns, and he also we share a passion for trout as well, like little stream trout fishing.
You're gonna have to teach me how to catch trout, dude, because I can't do it.
You need to pick up a fly rod.
Dude, I need to. So, funny story is, I was actually fishing a lake, and it's the most frustrating thing I've ever had happen in my life. So I was fishing for bass, and I was just touring around trying to find bass, and I have never had more trout near me in one time. Like, they were blowing up 2 feet off the front of my boat, all over the place. They were eating everything off the surface. Like, it was, if it was moving and anywhere near the surface, they were destroying it. And I tried every bait I have, including like tiny hair jigs and stuff like that, thinking I could jig them like a trout jig, and could not get them to bite at all. I even had a freaking trout get picked off the water by an eagle 2 feet away from my
Oh yeah.
kayak. Could not catch him. Could not get him to commit at all. I'm just awful with trout, and I'm in a multi-species tournament. I do a
Hmm.
multi-species tournament with jigs and bigs, and trout's one of the categories. And I always fail to catch a trout, like every single time. And I really want to like try to figure that out a little bit.
Yeah, catching trout in like a lake on artificial bait is definitely a big challenge.
I can imagine. Now, do
That's
they bite like night crawlers and stuff? Like, like I
oh
said, I've never really
gosh,
trout fished.
that's like the best bait, especially if you get like a
Is it
warm day in the summer. You get like a good drop off, and you could get like dozens out of the same spot because they're all holding at that drop
okay?
off with a night crawler. Yeah, so there's a lot of like outfitters here in northern Quebec where the trout fishing is pretty crap. Like in the beginning of August, end of July type thing. So you find those drop offs, and just with a simple night crawler, you'll get them to bite for sure. Streamer fishing on same tip fly lines in lakes too. I've never tried that, but I've seen many fishing shows that show people catching trout on streamers in a lake. So it's kind of like you're using like I guess you could say a minnow lure or a craw mimicking lure, but yeah,
Okay.
the streamers are cool. Yeah, even sometimes in like a small stream, I'm sure Steve relates to me. If there's like rain the night before, and if the tide if the water level's high, then you use a sink tip leader to kind of get that in the bigger trout's face, like a nice brown trout. Yeah, you use that sink tip leader
See, I
to
see
get it
so
down.
many guys like fly fishing from paddle boards, and I feel like I would end up in the damn lake. Like that looks like it takes a whole nother level of skill. Like it's crazy. These dudes are literally standing on a paddle board and the waves just like they're not even trying. It's crazy. Like I like every time I see him, I'm like I try to stay away from him because I feel like I'm gonna knock him over or something.
All right, Steve, you have any questions? You need to bring your kayak over to Vermont this year.
Come
That's what
fishing
we
with us,
have to
Steve.
do. Oh yeah.
For those of you who don't know, we do plan on doing plenty of collaboration videos. We're gonna try to fish together as much as we can. Honestly, if we can find a place with service, we may even try to do a live stream from the water as well. But obviously, a lot of places where we fish, especially in Vermont, service is kind of not really a thing, so it doesn't always work. But
Which is why the fishing's good. Keep that in mind.
yeah, exactly.
I got service everywhere and no fish here, so yeah.
I think I'm not gonna lie though. We have 10 people in here right now, and that is the most we've had like at the beginning of a stream. So I do want to thank everyone who jumps on these streams and watches it. It's a humbling experience. I know I've seen a lot of growth. So
Oh, we got a couple questions here. Do you see them? Do you see these
yeah,
questions?
yeah, I can see them on my chat too. Yeah.
Oh, you can?
Yeah, it's cool. I can see. I don't have anybody talking on mine right now, but yours it does. Yeah, I can see both on my side.
Okay,
So
okay.
what's the difference between?
Steve, I would love to get out with you guys if you're. Are you crazy? Bro,
Absolutely.
I'd get like 12 kayaks out there. And
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
for sure. Brianna, that is my girlfriend. What's the difference between the fishing you guys always talk about in comparison to saltwater fishing?
Saltwater is a lot of live bait. The
Mm-hmm.
majority of saltwater has to do with live bait fishing. Um, and this is probably a good topic for a live stream at some point. In the bass fishing world, using live bait is like a taboo subject. It is
Yep.
like it's a no-no. Oh, you use live bait, so you're inferior to the artificial bait guys. I personally like to catch fish. I don't necessarily care. But in specifically tournament aspects, you cannot use live bait. You can't use night crawlers. You can't use crickets. You can't use worms. You can't use bait of any kind. Has to be artificial. A lot of the saltwater fishing techniques, I can't say all of them.
No.
A good majority of the saltwater fishing techniques use some sort of live bait, and usually you're doing like a deep sea trolling or you're drifting and jigging in a typical like type fashion. There is some inshore saltwater fishing that's similar. Like for instance, red fishing is kind of similar to bass fishing. They have a lot of the same style kind of baits and techniques that bass fishing has. But saltwater is more like typically more live bait. They're not, I think a lot of it has to do with honestly the salt. I don't think a lot of bass baits would hold up very well in that
No.
water.
Well, Z-Man started making a lot of saltwater baits now. But
Yeah, but that
yeah,
Elaztec's invincible, man. That stuff
yeah.
is like
Oh gosh. Yeah. So I fished a lot actually on Hollywood Beach in Florida, and I would have one line with like a live minnow that I'd catch with like a casting net. What do you call it? A bait net. And then on my other line, I'd have like a jerk bait. Barracudas love jerk baits. Like you could literally use an X wrap that you'll use to catch pike here and catch a barracuda, which we were talking about last time. It's like the same thing.
So, funny thing about a jerk bait is what's interesting about a jerk bait is actually, if you think about it, I've used a lot of jerk baits just trolling them. Like, I've actually caught more fish just dragging it behind my kayak and current than I have
Yeah,
actually doing the freaking motion of it.
that's a popular technique in salt. You know Fishaholic? You ever watch Fishaholic?
I've seen some stuff, yeah.
Yeah, when he went to the Florida Keys, I was actually just watching him today, and he was just trolling and like using the what's it? Not the pedal. What's the other one that just goes back and forth?
Oh, it's still technically a pedal drive, but the Hobie has like the flipper style
Yes, exactly, the
instead of the
flipper.
paddle.
Yeah, so he was doing that and just trolling with the jerk when he was catching like snappers. Yeah.
Yeah. Walleye guys do that a lot. They'll take like 4 or 5 inch like actual jerk baits basically, and they'll cast them out, and a lot of them will throw like split shots on the line to get them down deeper, and they'll just troll them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you got a question here, man.
Do I
Mentioned
have
tournaments a couple times. What got you interested in tournament fishing stuff?
tournament fishing? So for me, you haven't done any tournaments yet, have you?
Zero.
Zero.
Because well, here they don't even have kayak ones. You need a boat
Right. You gotta
to
have a
do
boat.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the tournament fishing thing, it's funny. So what started me on it, to be honest, was content. I wanted to create some cool content, and I know when I watched guys that did tournament fishing, I would watch a guy that was having a bad day fishing because I wanted to see how he did, how he finished, things like that. So I started doing the national like KBF stuff. So KBF has a monthly tournament series where you basically fish for the whole month, and then at the end of the month, the guy with the biggest 5 fish, you know, wins. Then I started looking into like local stuff because I always wanted to compete, and I've always been an athlete. So like this is my new sport. This is my new getting that competitive nature out so I can have fun fishing, but then I can also compete and be just to see where I measure up, honestly. That's the biggest thing is like going out. I went to my first live event in Rhode Island, never having fished Rhode Island in my life, practiced 2 days, fished a tournament, placed fifth. Fifth place is nothing like it, fifth, I think it was fifth out of 10. Like it wasn't like I was awesome, but I placed fifth, so that means I beat 5 guys. And in my mind, it's like, oh, I actually can do this. So what's the biggest? I'll let you answer that one. What's the biggest fish? What have you caught?
Sturgeon.
Sturgeon? Wow, okay.
Sturgeon. Yeah, on like a drop shot setup.
Gotcha.
So there's a canal here in Montreal that you wouldn't expect it, but it has 6 foot long sturgeon in it.
Okay.
Like a
It wouldn't
hundred.
surprise me. I mean, they have them in Champlain too, but they're
Oh
actually
yeah.
you catch them in Champlain, you have to cut. You can't even board. You literally are required to cut them off.
Oh
They're
really?
an endangered species in Champlain.
Yeah. So I
They're
mean, I've
protected.
hooked into 6 foot long fish, but I can't get them. Like I can't put them on
Yeah.
shore. No, my biggest one was 4 feet
Okay.
sturgeon. You?
Biggest overall fish is think about it.
Is there any
20.
saltwater?
No, it was well, kind. I mean, Lake Ontario. Matter of fact, look in the background about 50 yards that way. Catching king salmon. So I got a 28
Oh,
pound king salmon because I actually used to go every year. So when my dad used to go out with some buddies, and then he started bringing us as a family trip. So I've been going to Lake Ontario every year since I was 14, and we do like the king salmon fishing thing in the fall. And those are the biggest like size wise fish. When you talk about like bass, it was like a 4.5 pound smallmouth and a 6.5 largemouth, but they don't really compare to a 28 pound king. It's not in the same league,
no, it's
or
not. Sturgeon.
sturgeon for that matter. But I
Yeah,
want to
there's
see you
like
catch a sturgeon in your kayak. I need you to make me a video of that.
no, I'm good. I'm good. Uh, different kinds of kayaks for inshore saltwater fishing compared to freshwater. Inshore salt, I guess you can use the same thing.
So funny story about that. Our kayak. Did you know our kayak was actually originally called Ocean Kayak?
The 106.
So what happened is Old Town made a kayak called the Ocean. So Old Town has a brand within Old Town called Ocean Kayak. They created the PDL kayak for inshore saltwater fishing. That's what it was designed for. A lot of guys wouldn't buy it because they thought it was specifically designed for saltwater and that you couldn't use it in freshwater.
Mm-hmm.
So they rebranded it and called it they brought the Old Town name back because Old Town wasn't involved. It was literally called Ocean Kayak. They brought back the Old Town name, which Old Town was actually a canoe company. So they
Right.
brought that back and rebranded it as the Old Town Topwater for the freshwater. But the kayak's exactly the same as the saltwater version. Now, I will say the PDL, I don't know if there's a difference. They do make an ocean version. So
Yeah, I
I'm
saw that.
guessing the
That's why.
PDL must have some extra protections against assault and corrosion. Would be my guess, is they make it out of a different material like they do for like props and things like that for outboards in the ocean. But you can use them on both.
Okay. So you were saying I've done Lake Ontario Kings. So I guess he would like catch them kind of where you caught them because you're getting. Where would you get on Lake Ontario from? New York, right?
Yeah, we were launching, so early on we were launching out of Mexico Bay, and which is in Mexico, New York.
Okay.
And then Oswego there's a big marina there. Yeah, Rochester's not very far. Same kind of area. It's all, I mean, in perspective, there's not that much land there that's really bordering the lake. There's 4 or 5 major harbors and ports on that side, but Rochester's another area that is very popular for. The reason why I was going to the area I was going is because the fish hatchery is on Mexico Bay.
Yeah.
So in the fall, they're coming in to spawn. So all the fish, every single salmon on the lake is coming over there because salmon
Okay.
always return home every year. And then if they're going to spawn, they go upriver and spawn, and then the other ones just go back out to where they go. So we kind of were like the place that they were coming to. I think there's a spot. Now, that being said, I'm pretty sure there's a Canadian side too that has a hatchery and all that they do it on the other side too. So it's not like
You're
every single
basically
lake, but
you're like a professional poacher.
yeah, you're literally wait. It's funny. You'll go out there with your fish finder, and you'll drive over a section of lake, and there'll be nothing there. You'll come back an hour later, and it's top to bottom stacked with fish because those fish had moved in. Like, it's when they're
Crazy.
in, it's nuts. Like, they say, I've never seen it in person. They say when the salmon run up the Salmon River, they say you could walk across it and not touch water. That's how packed
Yeah,
the
that's how
fish
bad.
are in there. It's just like when you
Wow.
see like those Alaska videos
Yeah, that I was
where
gonna
they're just
say.
freaking running right up through. It's the same
Yeah,
species of fish.
yeah. I actually went to a salmon hatchery in Vermont. You know Grand Isle? I know you're probably getting excited over the comment there, eh? You want to answer that about the
I'm just looking.
Chatterbait?
Yeah,
Go
I'm just
ahead.
looking at
Go
that
ahead.
chat of it. No, you go ahead. I'm gonna read that. I didn't read the whole thing
No, I
yet.
was just saying it was cool. I didn't even know that there were salmon hatcheries in Vermont, and I went to one. So
So
it's
that's
not
what's
the
funny
same type
about.
of salmon, though, right?
It's not. It's what they call landlocked or Atlantic salmon.
Yeah.
So my understanding, and I'm not a biologist, so I don't know exactly, but my understanding is there's actually no natural spawn in Champlain anymore.
Okay.
It is all stocked fish from fish hatcheries. So anything that's in there is put there by Fish and Game. Apparently, like all the erosion and stuff has kind of ruined the natural spawn points. So it's the same thing with Ontario. A lot of the spawn in Ontario is not. If you ever want to see something cool, is go up to the fish hatchery. I think it's in Pulaski in New York. Um, it's like they have like huge salmon mounts on the wall and stuff like that. But literally what they do is they swim into a tank, and there's guys that just work there during the spawn, and they literally take these things out of the water. They
Yeah.
squeeze the eggs out of them and throw them in a truck, and they
Yeah.
just all day. Yeah, they got to get to that chatterbait
Yeah.
question.
Yeah. Answer. I want to hear that.
Uh, so the chatterbait is an interesting bait for me because I've kind of replaced square bills with it because it has a different type of action. But at the same time, like you said, I'm trying not to catch pike. I'm trying to avoid pike. And a lot of times, especially if I'm tournament fishing, pike don't help me because I've spent that time fighting that pike and lost that time catching bass. But chatterbaits are an interesting bait because there's so many different varieties of them and so many different colors. And the thing about chatterbait that I think is the funniest is, and I don't know if you've ever done this or not, Steve, but I've literally fished them without the skirt too. Like I literally have ripped the
That's
skirt off
crazy.
and just fished them with just a swim bait on them because it's just that vibration
Yeah.
drive fish wild. And like pike, especially, they're looking to just murder. They're like serial killers. Like they're looking to just murder anything that goes in front of them. So if they're not necessarily right near your bait, that chatterbait is going to just draw them in. I've literally had I've had pike come out of the water next to my kayak because I didn't realize they were there trailing my bait, reel it in and go to pop it out of the water to go cast it and have them like a pike shamu out of the water chasing this chatterbait. Like, and you want to ruin your pants real fast, you have like a 20-inch pike come at you when you're in a kayak sitting this far off the water. It's a little intimidating.
We got a couple of questions.
Yeah,
Dream
so
fish. If you have a dream species of fish to catch, I got mine. I already know mine.
go ahead and do yours then. I've done all the talking.
Dolphin fish.
Okay.
A big, just the color of them. I love the color. Or mahi mahi, whatever. Same thing.
So it sounds kind of like pedestrian, but I want to catch a muskie, but I want to catch a muskie. Like
Yeah.
I want one of the muskies that I look like I'm in pain holding it up for the camera, not like a little one. Like I want one of them freaking ones that are like eating beavers out of their dams, not like the little ones.
Oh yeah.
Favorite trailer on a so it's funny my buddy fishes exclusively cross styles on chatterbaits. He actually doesn't fish swim baits. But what I have done, and this is a trick I learned from a YouTuber, is I do a lot of paddle tails, but you flip them upside down. So if you're not doing that, I recommend trying it. If you flip a boot tail upside down on the chatterbait, it doesn't like flip so much. It just makes it stay more straight. And I actually fish a lot of flukes. So like Zoom super flukes and things like
What's the
that that have
action
little
on
whippy
that?
tails.
And it makes an action with the chatterbait?
It makes
Yeah?
that little tiny tail, it flickers.
Okay, I
So
wasn't
when it's
sure.
wobbling, it just kind of has like a little. That's actually those ones I showed you, those split tails.
Yeah.
That's why I bought that mold because you sometimes you want. What I've noticed is having too big a profile can actually be detrimental. Whereas if you have that little whippy tail, it's just enough, but it doesn't take away from the action of the bait. So if it's really windy and there's a lot of current, the chatterbait will like roll with a big plastic on it, whereas when it's just got a little fluke, it doesn't have as much resistance and it kind of comes through the water straighter and it doesn't get hung up as much. So I use like I make my own. I'm not using a 4 or 5 inch paddle tail. I'm using like a 3-inch, and they do work really good. Is Berkley made, and I don't even know the name of it. I'd have to look it up. Berkley made when they came out with the slobber knocker, which is still the best name for a freaking bait in the fishing industry, in my opinion. They created a trailer specific for the slobber knocker that's like a swim bait, but it's got like a regular flat tail.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't remember what it's called, but that thing works really, really well. But again, it sometimes has too big a profile. I actually use sometimes for you in the streams and stuff like that, when you go stream fishing, they make a chatterbait. They make what's called a mini max. It's like this big.
Yeah.
It's like a micro jig, but a chatterbait, and it would work really good in like streams for like brookies and some of those smaller fish that are not looking for a big bait.
I actually have a question for you though. The fluke, do you use it on its own as a lure?
I have actually never fished a fluke as a fluke. I've always used it as a
I've
trailer.
tried like over grass and stuff. You kind of Texas rig it, but
I'm trying to think. Like
no luck.
I use it on swim jigs. I use it on chatterbaits. I have tried to use it like a jerk bait, like it's intended,
Yeah, I
but
don't like it.
I've never been able to make it not just like
I know it's a weird action.
it's just it's supposed to look like a dying bait fish, but mine looks like a mentally ill
Like it's
bait
doing
fish.
circles. Yeah.
Like it doesn't do what I
No.
want it to do. It's definitely not. I don't know. It's a hard bait to use. That's why I started using my own plastic, like making my own plastics too, because I've also found like little tricks like that. Like I've used You ever buzzed a swim bait across the surface like a horny toad or like a soft plastic frog?
No, how do you
Dude,
how
so you take an EWG hook, one of those like twist lock ones, and you just like Texas rig it. You can Texas rig it with like a regular EWG hook. Instead of throwing weight with it, you throw it completely weightless, cast it on top of lily pads or grass. Like we're talking the stuff that's so thick that you almost feel like you can
Oh,
walk on
okay.
it.
Okay.
So just like you would do like a Zoom horny toad, same kind of idea. Cast it out and just reel it across the top of the lily pads, because what'll happen is when it hits the water, it'll dive and it will swim, and then it will hit a pad and it will jump up on top of the pad and then it will dive and swim. And those bass will see all those pads moving and they'll come up and like blow up on it just like they do with like a hollow belly frog.
Nice.
That's
You
it.
want you
Texas
want
rig and Carolina rig. You want to take that one? Because that one's a fun one to explain, actually.
you can. I get mixed up with the name. I guess I know the difference, but go ahead.
So Texas, and that's something that I want to clarify too. There's a few different things.
Yeah,
A lot of people call
I know.
Tex posing Texas rigging. So taking a hook, putting a bait through a hook, looping it on, and then burying the hook inside, it's called Tex posing. It's actually not called Texas rigging. A Texas rig is actually a weight on your line that is allowed to freely float back and forth. A lot of guys will put a bobber stop further up to prevent it
Right?
from going too far. That's what Texas rigging is. Now, Carolina rigging is actually done a little differently. You actually usually have further up the line, you have beads that limit the distance of travel, similar to that bobber stop. But the idea behind Texas rigging is actually taking and flipping the bait into cover. So you're trying to drop that bait through those little holes in vegetation. So when you're looking at like a grass patch and there's that one little opening, you flip it in there or you flip it up against the edges of that bait. That's the idea behind Texas rigging. That weight, the reason why you want that weight on there is it helps pull it through, and then when it actually the weight beats the bait down, so it sits on the bottom and then that bait kind of floats above it. A Carolina rig is actually designed to be dragged across the bottom. So the theory behind a Carolina rig is that you're literally using the weight that's separated from your bait to make that bait be a little bit higher, so when you're dragging that weight through, that you usually do this a lot with craws because that's how crustaceans eat. They kind of swim along the bottom and pick stuff off rocks. So that's really the big difference between those. But they're if you look at them on paper, it is
They
hook,
look, yeah.
weight, and some stuff to stop the weight from moving. It's a very similar style.
So it's kind of the technique or how you want to present it to the fish that's different.
There is so many techniques in this sport that are so similar. For example, a Tokyo rig is just a small drop shot.
I know. I know. What's the deal with that?
It's
I
just
don't
a
know.
different no, so little juice here for you guys. Something I made some videos last year about the Berkeley Gilly and different ways to rig it. And one of the ways I rig it and catch a lot of fish is drop shotting it. I want to put a Berkeley Gilly on a Texas rig
Mhm.
with like a 1/8 ounce like weight on the end of it, because I think that would make that bait swim better because of the weight holding that bait down, because it's a little bit of a buoyant. I don't know if you ever fished a gilly before. You should look them up. They're really cool. They're basically like a small bluegill
Yeah.
profiled swim bait. And if you nose hook it, I want to try nose hooking it with a Tokyo rig to see if you can fish it across the bottom. So it's like kind of like a swim bait just kind of ticking along the bottom.
No, I watched your video on it, but I've never even seen them in the store here. Yeah.
Tackle Warehouse. It's about the only
Yeah.
place you're
Yeah.
gonna get them. They have them at Dick's Sporting Goods every once in a while, but they sell out really fast. But the problem is they're really soft, so if they get hit, they're pretty much dead.
Okay.
So
I'm. I don't know. I'm pretty happy with the interaction here from the
yeah,
viewers.
I'm actually
Honestly.
impressed, to be honest. I thought for sure on a random Monday that we just decided to do a stream that we weren't gonna have this many people on, but definitely and
Yep.
if you guys haven't read the banner across the bottom, just putting this out there, We are looking for people to come on with us and do guest spots. We're all about talking fishing. I'm going to have some people coming on very soon.
Mhm.
If any of you follow podcasts in the fishing industry, Bobby Roast Beef from Jigs and Bigs will be on the show. I believe in 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks. He's going to be doing a live stream on a Saturday with me. I'm working on some others to try to get some bigger names in the industry on, but you don't have to be big. You could be someone who's never done a YouTube video in your life that just loves to fish. You could be any level you want. I would love to get on and talk fishing. This right here is because I can't go fishing. So I'd rather get on and talk fishing with people and just grow this community together.
Absolutely. For sure.
So if anybody else have any other questions while we're still going here?
Yeah, what are you drinking? Is that an energy drink?
Hell yeah. Dude, I'm a caffeine addict extreme.
Yeah, I got
I'm
my.
actually technically sponsored by an energy drink company. I just don't promote it because it doesn't actually do good stuff for you.
Your sponsor.
I
Love this
have
guy. Got to be able to jump on. Steve should join. Steve should join.
Steve.
Honestly,
If you want to,
just message me on Instagram or
yep,
something.
yeah, hit up Bear Fishing. We can get you on. We can bring people on in this for sure. So
Oh yeah.
we may try to do. To be honest, I like the Q&A format. I may do these more often, like just a random. Maybe when we start part of the Wednesday live stream with a Q&A and then roll into a topic or something too. But there's no format. I actually hate watching podcasts and live streams where they're like, okay, so we're going to talk about this for 6 minutes and then in 8 minutes we're going to, no, I don't want that. I want literally, this live stream is literally meant to be two dudes met at the boat ramp and started talking fishing. That's the mentality here, is just
Oh
guys
yeah.
talking fishing and sharing information. So
And come spring and summertime, we're literally gonna be doing that. Like Mike, like you were saying,
absolutely.
like if we could get service on one of those boat ramps, like throw up a
Yep.
live, Q&A.
Yep. Yeah, my plan is to recap tournaments that I've done, talk about, like, honestly, on Wednesdays we're going to talk about how the weekend went. Did I catch
Yeah.
fish, did I not catch fish, what did I catch on?
Hmm.
I may not give you my spots if I got a tournament coming up, but I'm definitely going to share as much information as I can without giving my
For
competitors
sure.
too much
For
edge.
sure. Techniques, all that.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Does anybody in the chat fish any kayak tournaments, just out of curiosity? I'll start asking you guys questions instead. How's that sound?
Yeah, there you go.
I always hate how much of a delay there is on some of this stuff, because it's like I never know if I'm like asking a question too soon.
Yeah. I'm not. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of a new thing, honestly, with the kayak stuff. Okay, yeah, go ahead, Steve. Ask away, man. We should probably actually do a live stream soon about how kayak tournaments work.
Why not?
Bre-
I need
bre-
to learn that anyways. So
I could break it down. I can talk about the measuring boards and all that stuff.
yep. And then also what's coming, guys, is going to be a live stream about my kayak rigging setup, which is big.
Yeah, dude. Did you get a chance to take a look at those links I
Oh
sent you?
yeah, I looked at all of it.
I'm
I
not
put
gonna
in my
lie, I
I
geeked
put in my
out. I was like, I
notes.
want
No, no,
this.
no. I put in a separate like note file, so I kept it so I can go back to them.
I'm assuming that's Al on that channel. Yeah, Al. I mean, online, not online. I mean, you used to fish big boy tournaments in the boat, so it's a little different. So the American Angler Outdoors, Al from there, he used to try to fish the opens, did big boat tournaments and stuff like that. So he's got a little bit more big boat tournament experience than I do. I really just kind of got into the tournament scene within the last 2 years, but most people use pedal drives or have trolling motor. I have a It would and it wouldn't, because you have to think about with the trolling motor stuff. So sometimes I will say the trolling motor, I think, gives guys ego trip. And I think that they can fish more water than they can, so they're more likely to abandon a spot faster rather than pick it apart, and they don't always use their time efficiently. When I was in Rhode Island, I was just using my pedal drive, and the pedal drive versus the trolling motor is a little bit the same, but I can tell you that guys that had full Torqeedo setups, now keep in mind this is an $800 trolling motor, they can go like 8 miles an hour across the lake in their kayak. They were like going to a spot and then they'd zip across and then they'd zip across the other side. And like literally, I had guys blow by me with their troll motors on full tilt. And I ended up hooking a fish that got me 5th place in the tournament that they just ran right over because they were just flying over with their trolling motor and they weren't really paying attention to their grasp because they can just go spot to spot. I
Good
do
point.
think that if you're going to competitively fish in a kayak tournament, paddle kayaks are going to have a disadvantage. I will say that you are going to have a disadvantage. I don't think it's really the fact that the motor versus pedal drive thing. What I think it is if you're fishing any type of weather, you're constantly having to paddle to stay in place. You're constantly having to tread water and you can't fish while maneuvering. Whereas with a pedal drive, I can pedal and cast at the same time. That's the biggest advantage. But guys with paddle kayaks, the other thing is too, to be honest, a paddle kayak is easily modified into a trolling motor kayak if you really want to do it. It doesn't take that much money really, because you can rig. I've done some sketchy stuff with. I'm putting a motor on my pedal drive, honestly. So
Where are you going to be rigging that? As a side note, are you putting it where the pedal drive system is, or are you putting it back?
put it in the back. So on the back of our kayak, did you see the 4 bolts?
Yep.
That's actually for the power pole mount. So that's actually a reinforced section of the kayak to be able to mount a power pole to. My dad already did it with his. He actually rigged up a transom that bolts through like a plastic transom that then bolts into the mount that's already there. Basically, you just got to find a
Okay.
longer version of the same thread bolt, and then you can hook it right in there and then run a battery. It's not a necessity to compete. I'll tell you right now, when I was in Rhode Island, the guy who took 4th ahead of me didn't have a drive. He was a paddle kayak. I think it kind of brings up a good topic of kayak anglers. I've said this before, and I'm sure Al is probably going to be upset because he was a boat angler. I think kayak anglers are actually better than boat anglers because you have to pick your spots. You have to think about the amount of effort and energy it takes to move. So you're more likely to really hone in on conditions and really hone in on structure and area and technique,
Right.
because I can waste 30 minutes to go across the lake or I can try to fish this laydown. And you have to make those mental decisions and you have to juggle those decisions. With a boat, it's like, oh, there's no fish here, 80 miles an hour across the lake, and I'm going to go check this other spot out. That could be good and you could pull a bigger fish, but that could also be bad because now I'm way over here and the fish are biting over here. It's a different technique. Part of the mental game of tournaments.
I guess with a pedal drive, you're kind of, or a trolling motor, you're protecting yourself from like different weather conditions.
Yeah.
You're eliminating some of those vulnerabilities, right?
Yep.
That you can't do if you have just, what is the paddler? What are they called? I'm new to all these terms. There's the pedal drive and just the paddle one. The paddle
So
is just the paddle.
a paddle kayak is just your traditional kayak that just you do not have any propulsion system built into the
Mhm.
kayak. Then you have pedal drive. Now pedal drive is generic across the pedal like a bike or pedal like a Hobie. Because Hobie's the only one that really Hobie has this. There's some other companies that have copied Hobie, but I will give Hobie their due. This style of pedaling where you're going back and forth, that's Hobie. They invented that. Their patent ran out recently, so some people have started copying it.
Ooh,
But ultimately, the propulsion helps you a lot. Like, I will tell you, I started out in a paddle kayak and I used to get aggravated in the wind because I would try to fish a laydown, and I would be like,
Yeah.
cast, and then you're going backwards. Like you have to utilize anchors more. You have to utilize a lot more techniques. And honestly, it's if you get a real bad wind, you're not going home with a paddle kayak. You're just not. There has been days where when I had a paddle kayak, I couldn't go back to the ramp. I literally one day actually hung onto a guy's dock for an hour till the storm died down so I could go home. Whereas my pedal drive, I've been in literally 4-foot rollers pedaling into the wave and got home no problem. It's not comfortable. You're soaking wet when you get home, but you can get home. That's the major difference.
I'm searching up Al here because I couldn't even see that he was commenting on my YouTube. You can't see the double chat. You can see it in here, but you can't see it on YouTube.
Oh,
You get what
yeah.
I'm saying? So you see it because you have a
Yeah,
bigger
I can see
screen, but-
both. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, to be honest, I'm looking at Al's the only one actually talking on mine, but it does we did confirm that we're kind of shaking things out, guys. I wasn't really sure how this all worked. I knew I had a basic idea because I've done some lives with Al, but ultimately we can actually see, which strangely enough, by the way, Al, I can see everybody's names on here from YouTube, so it must be a Facebook thing. Because when we do Facebook Live, we can't see everybody's names. It literally just says like restream on everybody's name. So it's really weird, but we can actually see names on here when we do it this way.
Man, I think this is the most consistent viewers that we've both had.
Yeah, this is not to mention we were gonna only do this for half an hour and we're now on 41 minutes as usual.
Live stream about kayak loadouts.
Yep. Okay.
Tournament rules and breakdown. Okay, loadouts. What do you mean by that? I'm so new to this.
I'm thinking he means like how do you rig your kayak?
Like rigging. Okay. That's what I was.
And like I said, my goal, ideally, is we're not gonna live stream it because to be honest, live
it's
streaming
gonna
the
be
rigging
long.
is gonna be a lot of. Do you like this rod holder here or here? Do you want it here? Or you want it a little bit here? It's gonna be just a lot of that, but
Tedious.
we are going to record it. We're both going to release videos on our own channels. And we're going to do a complete rigging video so that you guys will get to see the bear fishing mobile from stock to customized. So,
and this thing, even though it's used, it is literally stock. There's no adjustments for rod holders. Like I don't even think these people put crates in the back.
probably not.
Like nothing. So I
Tournament
actually asked
rules.
the
Yeah,
person.
we'll do a tournament rule breakdown. I know we're doing a live stream on our goals, our fishing goals and content creator goals on Wednesday. Maybe the following Wednesday we can do. We can talk about kayak fishing tournaments, the basic of the rules and stuff like that.
Yep.
Sure.
I switch pages.
Gotcha. That's funny. So, but
Yeah,
other
thank
than
you
that,
once again. This is amazing. This is a big change.
makes it so much easier. If you guys had
But
any
even the
idea of the
aesthetic.
weird trickery I had to do with this to get this to work.
Yeah, for sure.
So, any other questions? We're on 45 minutes. We were going to run, like I said, we're running a little bit over, but to be honest, I'm having so much fun. I'm willing to stay on a little longer if you guys have some more questions. And don't hesitate. So, the lifeblood of a content creator is actually, believe it or not, comments actually help us. They actually push our videos out to more viewers. YouTube uses comments as part of the algorithm, and it's a great way for you to communicate with us. We both have Instagram as well, so you can find us on there as well. But if you want to ask a question about a video, you have an idea for a live stream, you want to go fishing, hit us up in the comments of any of our videos. It helps us out, and I know I watch my stuff constant. I'm pretty sure
Yeah.
you do too. So
I get a comment, I'm all excited.
yeah, like we don't do this for money. This isn't something we get paid to do. We're not sponsored anglers. I do this because of that 11 at the top of the screen. I do this because people ask questions and I can help people catch fish by sharing knowledge that I've just learned from fishing and watching YouTube. So, all right,
Yeah,
we can do that. Yeah, go ahead,
for
Steve, on
sure.
that. Silently breathing.
Yeah, I know, I know.
I'm so bad at like I'm not used to the live stream like
No,
making sure there's always no silence, Phil,
the
but
etiquette, yeah.
yeah. But again, we're fishermen, so let's be honest, etiquette doesn't really apply in that case, but
Like even if you hear me the way I'm breathing in my GoPro when I catch a bass, like
you can. So I stopped wearing a GoPro here for that reason.
yeah.
That's actually the reason. If you look at my videos, it's further away from me and pointing back at me because the whole video is me going.
Yeah.
And it's just awful. So I stopped doing that. So I will tell you right now, because Bear Fishing has not fished out of his yet. I have never stood and fished out of my kayak because I have, well, too much gravity and not enough coordination that I'm not 100% sure I'm going to end up in the lake. That being said, I have a buddy who stands the majority of the time in the exact same kayak that we have. His is a paddle version. So my buddy has the same kayak, just doesn't have the pedal drive. But as far as the form factor, the shape, the size, it's all the same. And if anything, our pedal drive acts as a keel, kind of like a sailboat. So it actually helps to stabilize the kayak a little more. I have never
Yeah.
stood and fished in my kayak, but I have stood up and turned around, put my knees on my seat, and lean over to grab tackle. So you can stand in them if you want. I'm just not brave enough to not drop all my tackle in the lake and then be broke. So
I know I'm gonna end up trying it out. I
I
know it.
I actually, one of the things I wanted to do with you so I can get someone to film it is I want to try it. That way if I fall on my ass in the lake, you can get it on video
Oh yeah. I'm down.
because I want to do it. I see so many guys doing it and I want to try it, but my goal honestly is to upgrade. I was looking at that Jackson Nar at that trade show, and that thing, I would stand in that. It's 36 inches wide, so it's like 3 inches wider than ours.
Okay.
And that thing, it's 120 pounds without the drive. It's heavy
Good
as
if you have a
hell.
trailer, but I'm
I got
not
a
for
trail.
that.
I got a
Yeah.
trailer. I'd put it on. I actually have a bigger trailer that I wouldn't even put it on my kayak trailer.
From a fly casting is a
So
biggie.
I actually have seen guys. I don't even know how they do it, but I've seen guys sitting and fly casting from kayaks too. With a sit-in kayak, I've
I
seen
was
guys
gonna
do it a
say
lot.
because he just made a good point here. A seat riser modification. Ours is like a
Is
bit
that?
higher. It
Yeah,
has that, right?
yeah. The sit
But
on tops are more like that.
okay. No, because I have like all the equipment, the fly, the setup, the leaders, the flies that look like bait fish and that for pike that I bought specifically for pike and bass, and I haven't been able to fish them here because when you're casting backwards in the city, you can catch a cyclist or a grandmother walking on a bike path. So
You totally got to turn a camera on and try to catch a cyclist on your backswing.
no,
That
it
would
almost
make me
happened
so
this
happy.
year. Oh
That
yeah.
I honestly would just watch that video for hours over and over again on a loop. Just watching you rip a cyclist off his.
And just hear the drag.
Don't get me wrong. I've caught in my kayak. I've caught my own rod.
Oh,
One day I flipped a jig back, and I have a 7'6" jig rod, and I flipped back to cast a jig, and I was trying to like do the like sidearm whip cast, and I actually had the jig wrap around one of the rods in my rod holder, and I actually went forward, and I had to catch my freaking rod as
oh
I as
God.
I basically threw my rod like a
Yeah.
spear over my head. I was just like, oh, and then I ended up catching it luckily. But yeah, I couldn't imagine a fly rod with the flexibility and the way those are designed. That would be honestly, like I said, it would be hilarious to watch you hook into a pedestrian and just like rip them off their feet or something. But that's because I'm a jerk. But yeah, it's the fly fishing thing has baffled me because to be honest, I suck at casting a spinning rod, let alone a freaking fly rod.
Oh, I love it. I love it. There's some type of satisfaction when you're using a fly rod and you're catching like a sport fish.
Now,
Great.
do you tie your own flies or do you just like
No, I'm not there. No, I'm not that hardcore because I do like to wrap them around trees. So I'm not gonna spend a couple hours tying one and then just wrap it around a nice
I'm
pine.
not gonna lie, there is nothing more stressful than casting. And it's funny too, I don't know if you've ever done this, but I realized this. I actually was listening to a podcast this week and a guy was talking about the stupid things that fishermen do. And it's like you'll cast a bait, right? Light bait, like I say a swim bait, for example, soft plastic Kitech, right? You cast it, wind will take it into a tree. Our immediate instinct is I need to get that bait back. I've broken 3 rod tips on $70 rods. And I don't buy expensive rods, but I've broken $200 worth of rods trying to save a 65-cent fucking piece of plastic because of my mentality, I don't want to have to retie.
Oh yeah.
And it's like sometimes it's the dumbest thing. Like just cut it off.
Like big picture, buddy.
Like you don't think about it. You just get so mad that you made that mistake.
Yeah, literally.
But yeah, they said that in that podcast, and I was like, I've done that. Like I've literally lost. I've had like a cotton Cordell Walmart square bill that cost me $4 and almost ripped my $200 rod in half trying to get it out of the tree when I could have just got up close to it and cut it. Let somebody else figure out how to get it down.
So
I think we're probably out of questions at this point. But
yeah, I have a quick question. This is like a technical point. You see like a nice fallen log in the water, like you know there's fish there. Like that's the one place the largemouth are going to be. On a kayak, how are you fishing it? I'm not talking baits. I'm talking about like how are you going to work it?
So yeah, so for me, I cast with my right hand and reel with my left hand. So I actually, and that's one thing that's very important that you'll learn when you're on the bank, there's no boat positioning involved. So when you're in a kayak, you have to think about if I need to cast to that log, how am I going to hit that log? Because I can't cast this way. I suck at like trying to go across my body cast. So if I see like any type of structure that I'm thinking about fishing, I approach it. First of all, I usually go up current from it because the current is going to pull you by it. And like, for example, if the log is here and the current's going this way, I'm going to this side first.
Yeah.
And I'm going to start fishing this end of it. So I'm going to be here casting this way. And then I actually anchor down. So I have an anchor trolley on my kayak. So I will position myself far away, kind of nosed in at the particular spot that I want to cast at. And then I'll actually lift my anchor, but I won't pull it out of the water. I'll lift it and drift and then drop my anchor again and keep working that down through. It's tricky with a kayak because you have to think about how you're going to position yourself to cast, because once you stop pedaling, once you start like anchoring down or just trying to lock yourself in a position, it's hard to not end up with the fish, because what's going to happen is where you're casting is where you're going to head when you reel, because it actually will pull you. Like a 6XD, like a deep diving crankbait, will actually, if you're not fishing in current, it'll pull you in your kayak.
For sure. Slowly, but you'll get there.
You'll be maneuvering that way.
Well, you'll be able to teach me on the water too. So
absolutely, there's so much. I actually really want to go into that more and more on this year, giving a hint and a kind of a preview for the next video. But one of my goals this year is I've been promising for 2 years now that I was going to do more education on the water, and I've sucked at it. and I haven't really broke it down. So my personal goal this year, which is one I'm, like I said, I'm giving it a little early, is for content side, is I want to try to break down when I show you I caught a fish, I want to tell you why I caught that fish. I saw a log. I got out a black and blue Senko because the water is this level of clarity and this. I want to try to break things down a little bit more because for me, I know watching guys on YouTube, there's some videos that are really fun to watch as a guy just catches a fish and shows it and then throws it back. But for me, at the level that I'm at, I want to know more. I'm watching that to learn, and I want to try to teach in a fun way. But like, I think the hardest part of bass fishing is knowing the little details. And I think if you can present those in different ways, then people start to hear these things over and over again, and they go, "Oh yeah, he was fishing a log and he used a black and blue Senko because the water was a darker color and the black offsets that if you break it down that way, then people, when they go see that log and they look at the water, they're going to go, oh yeah, Mike
Yeah.
said he uses a black and blue in this situation. Let me try it. And if you catch a fish, I've said this in other live streams,
Oh
but I'm going
yeah.
to continue to say it. If you catch a fish, do me a favor. Send it to the email at the bottom of this screen, and I will feature it in a live stream. I will put it on my channel somewhere. If you catch a fish using a technique that we told you or a bait or anything like that, I want to see it. And I honestly would love to be able to have so many photos that I can make like a montage video of viewer submissions, things like that, because our enjoyment of this actually comes from a lot of viewer participation. That's why we wanted to do a Q&A, because we wanted to give you the opportunity to ask questions. But we also, my payment for YouTube, all the money I have invested in everything, my payment for YouTube is seeing my viewer count on my analytics, seeing somebody comment and say, hey, that's a really cool idea. That right there is really all I ever want, is that.
Same here, man. Like we both said before, we're out there fishing anyways, right? If we could provide you guys with some sort of value to it, like we're doing something we love already. So if we can help you out along the way, then that's our pleasure.
It's kind of my goal to provide a no BS level of education, because to
Yep.
be honest, there's a lot of really good YouTube channels out there, and a lot of what I know came from YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
There's also a lot of guys with a lot of logos on their shirt that are being paid to tell you that this bait is the best, or this line is the best, or this is the way you have to catch fish because it
Actually,
costs more to do it this way than that way.
one of the most authentic YouTubers has got to be Creek Fishing Adventures. And he also
Yep.
does a great job of telling you the breakdown of why he's fishing this bait and
Yep.
where he's fishing it. And he pulls up to the river, usually rivers in Tennessee, and he's literally explaining to you, like, all right, guys, so I'm at this creek and like they'll be hiding there near this rock or whatever. Before he even has a rod out, actually what he'll do is he'll point with the rod where he's gonna be targeting these fish and for which reason. Yeah. So yeah.
There's nothing more
Yeah.
fun. I don't know if you've done it in any of your. Well, actually, I know you've done it because you did it with your peacock video. There is nothing more fun than
Oh
calling
god.
your shot, dude. It is funny because you guys don't see how many times we call our shot and fail, because we don't throw that one on video. I might have to start throwing those up too. But you'd be surprised. My wife will get mad at me because I'd be like, "Watch this log right here. I'm gonna catch a fish on it." One day I actually passed my dad in his kayak. My wife asked me what I was doing. I flew by my dad, and my wife goes, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "He's gonna get there, and there's a fish on that log. There's always a fish on that log." And she's like, "What do you mean?" And I cast in and pull out like a 3-pounder. And she's like, "What the?" I'm like, "There's always a fish on that log."
Yeah.
I'm like, "I just know this." But when you can call your shot and be like, "Yeah, I'm gonna cast a Senko 2 inches to the left of that little branch on that log, and it will get picked up in 3 seconds," and then they do it, and you're like, "Yeah, okay, that feels good." And half of the time it doesn't work out, but
But when it does, you feel like a genius.
it does. It makes you feel like a hero, but
Yeah.
that is for sure. So we're at an hour, guys. We're probably
Yeah,
gonna wrap this up. I know, like I
for
said,
sure.
this was originally intended to be a half hour. All 11 of you, we are gonna be back Wednesday night. We settled on 8:30, 8 o'clock. What did we just set up?
Was
Time.
it? I could do 8. I'm good
Okay,
for 8.
we'll do 8 o'clock again on Wednesday. That one's a little more.
I guess there's a bit of a format
Yeah,
to it. Well, it's
kinda.
basically just the general topic,
Right.
we're gonna, yeah. I mean, I'm gonna jot down some notes, but I'm just gonna like leave them on the side. And
Yeah. So, and a little foreshadowing. In that video, there's going to be some information about a giveaway that I'm holding. So I'm going to be doing a giveaway and I'm going to be talking about the details on how to get entered into the giveaway in that video. It's just honestly a simple thing. It's going to be simple rules that I'm going to explain, but you have to watch it to be part of it. And that's how we're going to kind of bring some viewership in, because at the end of the day, for us to grow, for us to get our information out to more people and teach more anglers how to catch fish, we've got to grow our channels. And we're gonna do cool stuff like giveaways.
oh
Both
yeah,
of us are kind of working on merch, but to be honest, the economy sucks and I'm broke, so I can't really afford to do too much right off. But we're gonna work on some stuff. So I want to thank everybody that's been in here. We've literally had an average of 10 viewers the entire time, which is
freaking good.
humbling, to be honest.
Yeah,
And I know in the scope of YouTube, it's tiny, but to me, that is 1,000 viewers. That is literally making it for me, as sad as that sounds, but it's something that's really impressive to me that you guys hung out with us this long. So if you want to check us out on Wednesday, we will be back here again live on both channels, streaming thanks to the American Angler Outdoors. We
thank
can dual
you.
stream. um, and if you guys haven't checked it out, please go check out the American Angler Outdoors. There's a lot of cool channels on there. There's a lot of information on the website. I'll actually put it in the show notes down below, but it's another way to get your content out there if you're a content creator. So if you haven't checked it out, give it a look. It is a new way of presenting your information out to a wider audience. It is literally a TV network that you can get in on the ground floor for. So something that is
Yeah.
very, very cool and very, very exciting. I'm on there. There's going to be a lot of other anglers that are definitely coming in and going to be joining us as well. So I'm affiliated with them. So I will say it's a little bit of a, I'm helping out, but they definitely have an idea and a mentality that is going to help small content creators grow. And I want to emphasize that, because as a community, we can all grow together. So you got any final thoughts?
No, thanks for everyone for tuning in. I mean, you made it what it is, really. If
Absolutely.
not, it would just be two guys still doing what we're doing, which is rambling on about fishing. But I mean, you made it. You made it a big deal for us. So thank you, thank you.
Awesome. And
I
again, if you have
appreciate
any
that.
questions, don't hesitate to reach out to us. We're
Reach
both on
out.
Instagram. Your name is the same on Instagram, right? Honestly, I
Same
added
thing
you.
on Instagram. Keeping it simple.
So our
Yeah.
names are the same as our channels on Instagram. Hit us up, message us there. Hit us up on my email down below. And, we will be back on Wednesday for another live. Good night, guys.
Thank you guys. See you Wednesday.